Hey, did you know Cleopatra lived closer to the invention of the iPhone, than to the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza? Mind-blowing, right? Okay, let me break this down for you. When we think of Cleopatra, we imagine ancient Egypt, pharaohs, pyramids, mummies, but here's the crazy part. Cleopatra lived around 2,000 years ago. The iPhone was invented in 2007, which means she lived about 2,000 years before that. But the Great Pyramid of Giza, it was built way back in 2500 BC, 4,500 years ago. So Cleopatra, who we think of as this ancient figure, is actually way closer to us in time than she is to those huge pyramids her ancestors built. It's like her being as close to our world as we are to hers. To put it in perspective, if Cleopatra had an iPhone, yeah, imagine that. She'd still be over 2,000 years away from seeing the Great Pyramid completed. That's like you having a grandparent who lived during the time of the dinosaurs. Well, not quite, but you get the idea. This fact shows us how vast and weird history is. When we think of the ancient world, we sometimes lump it all together, but there's a huge difference between the ancient world of Cleopatra and the even older ancient world of the pyramids. In fact, Cleopatra was living in a world much more like ours, with cities, trade, even libraries, than the world of the pyramid builders. So, the next time you're using your phone, remember, Cleopatra, one of history's most famous queens, was closer to swiping through social media than she was to seeing the Great Pyramid finished. History's timeline is wild like that. History isn't just some far-off thing, it's connected to us, and it makes you think, what are we living through today that will seem ancient to someone 2,000 years from now? On to the next fact. Check this out. You see this car? What if I told you that a blue whale's heart is this big? Yep, the size of a small car. That's one massive heart, right? Let's put that into perspective. A blue whale is the largest animal to ever live on Earth, even bigger than dinosaurs. And its heart, just the heart alone, can weigh as much as 1,500 pounds. That's like stacking up a bunch of grown humans and calling it a heart. This heart is so big that its arteries, the tubes that pump blood, are large enough for a human to crawl through. Yeah, you could literally swim through a blue whale's blood vessels. That's wild. Now, why does a blue whale need a heart this big? Well, it has to pump blood through a creature that can grow over 100 feet long. To give you an idea, that's longer than a basketball court. And the whale's heart needs to pump blood all the way from its head to its tail. Just imagine how much power it takes to keep something that huge alive. But here's the thing, despite being the biggest heart on the planet, it only beats about 5 to 10 times a minute when the whale is diving deep into the ocean. Compare that to us. Our hearts beat about 60 to 100 times a minute just sitting still. The whale's heart works slowly, but incredibly efficiently. So next time you see a car, or feel your own heartbeat, just remember, there's an animal out there with a heart so big, it could fill up this whole car. The blue whale isn't just a big animal, it's a reminder of how incredible and strange nature can be. Imagine having a heart that big. It's a reminder that even the most massive creatures on Earth are powered by something as simple and as amazing as a heartbeat. Nature's full of surprises, and the blue whale's heart is definitely one of the biggest. On to the next fact. See that fluffy cloud? You'd never guess it, but that cloud up there weighs about 1.1 million pounds. Yep, you heard that right, 1 million pounds. That's like putting 100 elephants up in the sky. Crazy, huh? I know what you're thinking. How can something that looks so light and airy be so heavy? Let's break it down. Clouds are made of tiny droplets of water or ice. And even though each droplet is super small, like microscopic, there are billions of them in a single cloud. All those tiny droplets together weigh as much as 1 million pounds. That's a lot of water floating right above our heads. But here's the cool part. Even though the cloud weighs so much, the air beneath it is able to hold it up because the droplets are spread out. It's kind of like when you see a massive ship floating on water. It's heavy, but it spreads its weight over the surface so it stays afloat. Clouds do the same thing, just in the air. And you've probably noticed that clouds move, right? Even though they weigh so much, they drift along thanks to the wind, sometimes miles and miles across the sky. Imagine moving 1 million pounds like that. It's like nature's version of magic. So next time you're outside, take a moment to look up. That big fluffy cloud may look like a cotton ball, but it's carrying more weight than you could ever imagine. It's just another reminder that nature does some pretty amazing things without us even noticing. Who knew? 1 million pounds of water floating above our heads and we barely feel a thing. Nature sure has a way of making the impossible look easy. On to the next fact. Ever felt the heat from a campfire and thought, wow, that's hot? Well, get ready for this. The Earth's core is as hot as the surface of the sun. Yeah, the sun, that giant ball of fire in the sky. Let's break this down. The surface of the sun is about 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's ridiculously hot, right? But guess what? Deep below your feet, all the way at the center of the Earth, the temperature is pretty much the same, around 9,000 to 11,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's like standing on a giant ball of fire, but with a lot of rock and metal in between. So, how does something inside the Earth get that hot? Well, the core is made of mostly iron and nickel, and it's been heating up ever since the Earth was formed about 4.5 billion years ago. There's all this pressure from the layers of rock above, squeezing the core and keeping it molten, like the world's hottest oven. Plus, radioactive materials inside the Earth keep releasing heat over time, adding to the fire. And even though the core is as hot as the sun, we don't feel it because we're living on the Earth's cool, solid crust, thank goodness. But without that fiery core, we wouldn't have things like volcanoes, earthquakes, or even the magnetic field that protects us from harmful space radiation. So, all that heat down there? It's actually pretty important. Just imagine, you're standing on the ground, going about your day, and right beneath your feet, thousands of miles below, is a core burning as hot as the sun. It makes you realize how wild and amazing our planet really is. So next time you look up at the sun and feel its heat, remember there's a little piece of that fiery energy right here on Earth, buried deep inside us. Pretty cool, huh? Or should I say, pretty hot.
So, do you know anything about techno?
And now finally I've saved the best one for the last. Chess, just 64 squares and 32 pieces, right? Seems pretty simple, but did you know there are more possible ways to play a game of chess than there are atoms in the entire universe? More than atoms. Okay, let's put that into perspective. Atoms are the tiny building blocks of everything. Your body, the air, this table. Everything is made up of atoms. And scientists estimate there are about 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the whole universe. That's a 1 followed by 80 zeros. A number so big it's hard to even imagine. But chess, it's even more mind-blowing. From the very first move, there are over 400 possible ways to play. After 2 moves, that number jumps to over 121,000. And after just 4 moves, there are nearly 319 million possible positions. The number of possible games keeps exploding from there, eventually reaching a number so huge it's more than the atoms in the universe. Think about that for a second. We're talking about more possible chess games than there are atoms in your body or in the stars or even in all the galaxies combined. Every time you play chess, you're exploring just one tiny sliver of this massive, mind-bending possibility. It's like diving into an ocean that never ends. This fact is so cool because it shows how something so simple, just a board and some pieces, can unlock an almost infinite world of possibilities. It's a game, but it's also a universe all on its own, where every move creates a brand new story. So the next time you sit down for a game of chess, remember, you're not just playing a game. You're stepping into a world where the possibilities are endless, literally more than all the atoms in the universe. Now that's what I call a big game. Who knew that such a small board could hold more possibilities than there are atoms in the universe? Mind-blowing, right? It just goes to show that even the simple things, like a game of chess, can open up a world of endless possibilities. If you found this as fascinating as I did, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing facts about the world around us. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.